We did this last week, and we got some complaints in the comments about people who were like, "Hey, look, like, how come you didn't talk about these characters?" And it's like, because I was saving them for the top 10 most laggy characters when you play Street Fighter V online. I wanted to talk about these bastards. And look, we've all been there. You load up your copy of Street Fighter V, which takes about 20 minutes to do on PlayStation 4, and then you head into some ranked games, right? And then you see it. One of these characters we're talking about pops up, and you know there's a damn good chance that you're going to be in for it. Not dazzled by the other player's skills. No, 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 no. You're going to see some mind-numbing latency, and this player is going to use it to their full advantage, because why would they not do that? Now, that's the important part here. Some players lag, while other players abuse that lag. Now,
I feel personally attacked already because I feel like as you were writing the notes for this, you printed out a picture of my face and just put it on the wall, and just all of the emotions that came from looking at that were the notes that you jotted down. But go ahead, you haven't said anything yet, so...
That would have been a much better idea than what I actually did. I should have done that. So thank you for that idea. Next time, I'm definitely going to hit that up. But some of you might not agree with some of the characters on this list. Maybe John here, right? But I would encourage you to leave a comment down below with your top 3 most laggy characters, because, you know, hey, it's fun to kind of see what other people's perceptions are. My perception is, of course, reality for me, but it might not be reality for you.
To clarify, is this characters that cause the game to lag because of their, you know, like visuals, or is it characters that players often will do something like mash the controls because that causes more lag, and then they'll use that as part of their you know, strategy to slow things down so that you can't react to their character who benefits from lag?
Yes.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
Yep. So without further ado, number 10, we have Birdie. And I don't know why so many people with terrible connections are attracted to this guy. Perhaps it's just his just do it nature, low execution, really high damage for getting a random read. All right, well, now that actually makes a lot of sense why people play Birdie, because all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds
really
like that sounds like a good time. I'm gonna be a Birdie main now.
Yeah, so -5, -9, bullheads, it doesn't really matter, because if lag happens, it's barely going to be punishable anyway. And so you can do a few extra of those just for fun. Like, you know, with latency and stuff on your side, it's like, just kind of go ahead and do that, because there's a good shot it's going to work out in your favor. And once you do one of these, go ahead and just walk back like what you do a bullhead, or don't even walk back because you might be a safe distance, and hit standing medium punch, and then go and do another bullhead. And this will take you a long way overall in Street Fighter V ranked. And just kind of remember, if you have a bad connection, it's not about playing smart. It's about using that connection for every unfair advantage it offers until you're blacklisted on CFN.
Yep. I have a lot of grief from playing against birdies over the years. Not necessarily because of lag, but man, input lag, Birdie doing the dolphin dives back in seasons 1 and 2, that was something that you'd be ready for, you'd be thinking about, and just never could get out of it.
Eat it.
And then, and yeah, his, well, a big part of his design was that he would have those trap moves that would put him at like -5, but you couldn't do anything about it. And if you tried to, you were just whiffing, which meant he could punish you. Things like that were super frustrating. But you're right, as like a grappler character, someone who is basically testing your reactions as they make their attempts to get close, man, when lag factors in, and then they get to be where they want to be, and Birdie in your face, that's terrifying, because whether he command grabs you or whether he lands a hit, man, he's taking a lot of damage. He's definitely a frustrating character. I would say it's really easy for any grappling or brawling type character to fall into this category, and he definitely fits the bill.
All right, so number 9, we have Ibuki. And Ibuki is actually a character from the fairy tales who lives under a bridge and eats unsuspecting people who try to traverse into her territory. Except instead of eating your body, she's there to consume your points. Yeah, I'm calling Ibuki a troll, and that's really what she is, a league points troll. Look, you know, and the Ibuki player knows that an EX kunai is coming near the start of every round 2, because Ibuki players always have meter at the start of round 2. And while they could do something else, with latency on your side, why wouldn't you do an EX kunai? It just makes sense. You might win the round right there with a single move because it leads right into her vortex. And Ibuki players just kind of seem stacked with more points than they really should have, and every one of those points is just one more reminder of how many people's league point souls they've consumed through the years. So fear Leggy Ibuki. She's there to eat your points.
I don't know if I've experienced a ton of specifically laggy issues with Ibuki, but her mix-ups are crazy both on and offline, and I've definitely had some gnashing of teeth following Ibuki matches.
Mm, yeah. So, well, here's a character you have had some experience with, John, through the years, and that's at number 8. We have Rashid. And Rashid falls into a special category here of what I like to call lucky latency. And lucky latency is basically defined as you'll be winning against a Rashid player, and lag will happen, and all of a sudden, that leg comes into play. It could impact both players in a negative way, but against a Rashid, it always seems to benefit him. That's lucky latency. And while I haven't been able to confirm this, I'm pretty sure there's a bit in the game's netcode that says, did the game lag? Okay, let's increase Rashid's movement, invincibility, or move startup time, or all three of them. And if that sounds facetious, wait until you play a few Rashids online, and then you'll swear that block of code actually exists in the game.
His moves are so good, like the reach and the priority and the movement. Rashid is always just out of your grasp and is still able to hit you, especially as you're grasping at him, as you're chasing him down. He can chase you down just fine and often does, but the moment he goes into that like retreat and haha, you can't get me kind of thing, jumping off the walls and V skill 2ing back and forth or jumping through my tornado or whatever it is. And then
I like that you say the moment he goes into that. When is he not doing that?
when
John?
he's doing wake up DPs or when he's running and doing tornadoes on the ground, the tornadoes spin at you. But yeah, it's not often, and he just kind of goes through. It does feel like, and this is even without lag, which I think it's just magnified when you are in lag, and that's both in the actual happenings, but also in your feelings of frustration and tension. But his buttons and his abilities are just like they're always just out of range and then hitting you, and I mean, good if you're skilled. That's what you should be as like a skilled player with anyone. It should make your opponents feel like that, and I'm sure I've run into Rashids that have earned that feeling, but at the same time,
Are you really sure?
no,
about that?
it's well, so many of his moves, so many of his movements kind of naturally do that for him for various reasons, and so yeah, it feels like that when he's not laggy too, but all the more so when you're playing and there's some lag factor in.
Okay, so I hit some unpopular characters here. Let me hit a really popular character here at number 7, and that's Urian. Urian players like to take things to a whole different level. This guy was on our scummy tier list, but he also makes the latency tier list as well. And for a Urian player, it's not just enough to do all of his dirty things. Sometimes they feel the need to go up and just teabag you for having the nerve to just fight against this monster. And it's well documented that latency makes it harder to depend on things like timing, reactions, and skill, which is very, very, very bad news for you when it happens, but very good news for Urian players when it goes down, because that just feeds into everything they want to do. And it's stuff like the EX headbutt, which is truly treacherous online. There are a ton of baits and ways to make just you stop that move cold offline. It's not that bad. But you can throw out a number of those tactics when you play it online, because while they technically work, they don't work well when your opponent is borrowing their neighbor's internet connection who lives 7 houses down. And again, this is an advantage for Urian players. You probably don't even want to pay for your own internet. That might actually give you a playable connection. Just borrow off some people who live around you and rake in those sweet, sweet LP points. Or league points, sorry, LP points, yeah.
The LPP, baby. You know, I don't know how many times.
Are you down with LPP? Anyway, sorry.
How many times I've gone for an attack on a blocking or not blocking Urian, seen the hit and going, oh, cool. And then all of a sudden, it's actually me getting hit with an EX headbutt.
Yeah.
Best feeling. Best feeling ever.
Yeah.
I put him in the same kind of boat as Rashid in that his normals and his specials as well kind of do the job for him relative to a lot of other characters. And so you see them just happen a lot and then they go his way. Not so much in the movement category like Rashid, but again, it's rough enough offline when you pepper in lag and then those things are hitting you. And it's like I said, it looks like you hit him, but all of a sudden it roll back and you're the one getting hit. It lands in a special place in your heart when that happens.
So number 6, we've got Armika. Latency Armika is a lot like Rachel McAdams in Mean Girls. She smiles a lot, she's hot, and she does a ton of things just to piss you off. Look, you don't pick up and play this character to have a good and fair match. Everyone knows this. But the amount of bullying Armika players do throughout a match is only multiplied by latency. Drop kicks, dive bombs, dashes. Every time the game stalls out, you know your odds are that much less of actually doing anything resembling Street Fighter when you're playing against an Armika's latency game. No one wins here. Just like when Rachel McAdams bullied all the other girls in high school, few people will make you as salty as Regina George.
Armika George. Dude, you're not wrong. This might be my number one pick on the list. We'll see as we go through here and if you make some better cases for other characters. But the first one that comes to mind is Mika because, and it's again this sort of like grappler brawler archetype that's when she's close to you, that's where she wants to be. But your advantage is that she's got bad neutral and she's got a rough time getting there. And so the onus is on you to stop drop kicks to see if she's going to jump in, but then cut things short with a like a splash, you know. And if she's just going to try to beat you on the ground with some footsie whiff punishing and things along those lines. But when you pepper in lag and what happens is she's like varying the drop kick timing, which it's a crush counter. And so you're hitting her out of it. And then the one time where all of a sudden there's just that little bit of lag. So then you mistime your button and you get crush countered and she gets in, especially in earlier times where she was vortexy and really bad. But even now, it's like she can do some real bad damage. And so when she gets her big advantage for something that she doesn't deserve, like that sucks. And it's like that's really bad.
And I have to ask you, John, something she does. When does Mika ever deserve it?
Mika, I played Fudo at Combo Breaker one year, and he definitely was playing just a whiff punishy game for the most part. And
Okay.
but I hear what you're saying, and yeah, never.
So there's a few out there, yeah. Okay, but anyway, so at number 5 we got Laura, and a number of people in the comments were fairly upset I didn't put Laura in the last list of scummy characters, but I was saving her for now. Laura isn't as bad offline, but when you take her online, oh man. A lot of people start off okay against Laura. I mean, she is gorgeous, and you know it takes some skill to pull off a number of things she has. She has, some tricky stuff, right? But then she starts grunting and saying all sorts of crazy stuff, and you get scared. And when Laura scares you, all the knowledge that Velociraptor put out there in the tips video he put out, it goes straight out the window. And I should know. I just ran into a Laura, and I'm like, okay, John told me how to do this. I know this, and that. I was prepared. I was ready to go. And then Laura starts saying crazy stuff like, let me zap you. And every bit of that knowledge drained out of my freaking brain. Look, Laura is terrifying when she starts saying her crazy stuff and she starts glowing with electricity. And the stuff she says wouldn't normally be considered like, words to inspire fear, like, let me zap you. And like,
Want some
I'm
zap
here
that?
and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. You wouldn't normally be terrified by that stuff, but that's just because you haven't played enough Laura's yet. The moment she starts saying that crap, your sphincter clenches up and you just lose all knowledge and it goes. And so, yeah, you might prepare against Laura, but does preparing actually help you that much? The answer in latency is probably no.
How can I say something other than when she activates V trigger 1? All right, well, touche.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was the most succinct and like, yet, let's say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Like just saying Laura's V trigger 1 is probably worth 1,000 words. So good stuff there. So at number 4, we have Balrog. One of the things that Balrog players count on is being so mentally confusing that you don't know up from down. And I mean that literally. Expect about 17 overheads during every matchup against a Balrog player because reacting to his overhead is almost impossible in latency. You know this, but much worse for you, your opponent playing Balrog definitely knows this and is going to spam these unsafe moves whenever he possibly can. Unsafe, disadvantage, it doesn't matter. They're coming. Can you block them? Probably not. And that's what leggy Balrog players are basically counting on. And one of the things about it is when you're going to run across a leggy Balrog player because he has some weird ass name like French Fry Biter 27 and he's got like 1,000,000 points and you're like, how do you have so many points? And then the match starts up and it slows to a crawl and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I just gotten into? And the answer is number 4 on our list, leggy Balrog.
Yeah, stupid laggy Balrogs.
Okay, so at number 3, M. Bison. All right.
I knew it was
First
coming.
off,
Knew it was coming.
yeah, he had to be on here. Bison's shimmy is incredibly slow. This guy's walk speed is ridiculous. But when he actually has the ability to shimmy you and kind of walk back and forth, those are the longest seconds of your Street Fighter V life. As you watch him just grinning at you and just taking his time to leg over to you. And yeah, I didn't say walk over, because a lot of Bisons don't actually do that. They teleport around the screen constantly just by doing his dash and just existing. This guy's like a ghost. He's slow moving and practically ethereal, and you try and reach out and punch him, and you somehow pass right through him. And that's when it's the good result. The bad result is hearing the crush counter sound. And John, if you don't mind, can you just edit in the crush counter sound about 50 times right now? Because that's pretty much a direct recreation of what it's like to play against a laggy Bison. You might think you're winning. Hell, it probably even looks like you're winning. And then the rollback happens. And you found that sick combo you were doing was actually thwarted by a Bison player just mashing the crap out of his heavy buttons. And you might not be dead, but you might as well be, because Bison's leg vortex takes no prisoners.
It used to be so much worse when V-Trigger 1 was the only option, and then when it was still the primary option. But now a lot of Bisons play V-Trigger 2, and then that's got its own advantages, but it's not the BS that V-Trigger 1 is, where he's just teleporting all over the place, and it feels like maybe it's the inputs of doing all the dashes, maybe it's just the V-Trigger itself, but it definitely feels like the game also slows down. I mean, it feels like you're lagging even offline when that's going on, not because you necessarily actually are, but because of the way the trigger works and how chaotically zany it tends to be. That said, I ran into a Bison today that was using V-Trigger 1, and I got away with the win, with the hair of my the skin of my teeth. And actually, I'll say I'm on like a 13 or 14 game win streak right now, knock wood.
Hey, there you go.
But yeah, Bison's been one of those characters that has definitely thrived off of that. Again, the V-Trigger 1 stuff, and he's already been a very, very good character. So to tack that on top of everything else, it's just like, that's not a fun experience.
Speaking of not fun, at number 2, we have Alex.
You put Necalli as number 1. Hot damn. All right. Fair enough.
Necalli did not make the list, man. So Alex is a bad character in Street Fighter V. This is well established. But this guy's tier ranking jumps dramatically when you involve latency. All the stuff that requires reactions and spacing is pretty hard to do when the Alex player can just mash everything he does and just kind of like, basically mask everything kind of behind like a 1 second delay, and he can just mash out his inputs to do all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, if there's a 1 second delay, you're not reacting to it. He's going to do a stun headbutt, he's going to do all this kind of stuff, and I mean, you might react to it, but it's probably not going to happen. And if you guys are thinking I'm taking shots at Alex, and like I saw people in the comments like, hey, Alex shouldn't be on this list. Well, Majin Attention Hand, who plays Alex, and Alex is one of his favorite characters of all time, he was playing in the CPT, and he had a match, like he was trying to get in against a player, tournament matches, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, man, I can't get in against this guy. And he's like, what's going on? And the guy's like, hey, just check your blacklist. See if I'm in there and, try to do that or not. And sure enough, like Nick checked it and it was blacklist, and the guy named Alex. And Nick was like, look, he's like, I love Alex, but like, this is one of the worst culprits for latency online. This is ridiculous. But and again, it's not just that Alex players tend to lag. It's also that this guy gets stronger the more latency happens. Like, it's just his lariat arm like grows in size and all this other kind of stuff. Just it is just a nightmare to go against this guy, because again, you think you should win, but latency doesn't want it to happen.
Let me ask you this. What's a worse purgatory for you personally, where you're stuck in an infinite set against Cammy or an infinite set against Alex?
How much latency is involved?
Yeah, fair enough.
That's pretty much it. So if the latency is heavily involved, I would pick Alex on that one, actually. But there's someone even worse.
Who's your number one,
John? We have Ken.
Oh, yeah. Color me surprised. I guess not. I can't believe you didn't put Necalli. Many times as you've complained to me about Necalli and about specifically lag and how you can't judge like whether it's a jump or a forward dash and all that stuff, which was true back before the input lag, and I don't know how much now, but yeah, I can't believe you didn't put Necalli on this list.
No one plays him.
That's true.
I said this before, and people are like, I played him, and I'm like, you're lying. You're not playing him. No one's playing him. Only you. You're the only person I see who plays him. But
and you have me blacklisted, so I guess, yeah. Fair enough. All right. Well, I can't argue with Ken either.
Can't argue with my logic, right? If I just alter the facts to make them suit my narrative, then it's perfect. But anyway, laggy Ken is like Ken on steroids. And that's what Ken's face looks like in Street Fighter V. He looks like he's all roided up. He's like, you staring at the screen, right? And he's staring at you like you're barely there. And that's actually probably a pretty good strategy for online Ken players to use. I mean, you could look at your opponent. You could look at what options they've picked for V-trigger, V-skill, what style they're using in the match. But when you're using a laggy Ken, is that in your best interest? And based on what I've seen from Ken players, it doesn't appear like it is. Look, latency-based Ken is the stuff of FGC Legend. It's not just Street Fighter V. It's every game Ken has pretty much ever been in. But when I say Legend, I actually mean Nightmare. Some random crap is going to happen, and it's going to last for the entire rest of the match. Because when a Ken player becomes unhinged, and no, I didn't say if they become unhinged. I said when a Ken player becomes unhinged, they ain't recovering from that. And likely you aren't either.
You're not recovering from that.
Leggy Ken Online is the worst.
I imagine, and you guys can probably picture this too, this very vivid image of you going from like any kind of neutral situation to 6 frames into a Ken DP, and like that in between is lost. It just goes from we were doing something and all of a sudden 6 frames into a DP and your body's on fire getting hit, and it's like, oh, that's the you say the stuff of nightmares. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Ken's been doing it for a long time, man. I mean, like, we were playing on X-Band back in the day, and Ken was one of those characters who caused latency because the Super Nintendo chip could not keep up with Ken's fiery Dragon Punch, and so he'd do it. And so one of the best strategies with Ken was to do a DP and then immediately follow up with another DP, because it's possible you could punish it, like as he's landing and other stuff like that, but there was a good chance that it wouldn't work. And so the DP on top of the DP on top of the DP, the triple mix-up, it's been happening for a long time. So shout outs to Ken. You keep your place at number 1, dog. Like, we love you for that. Not really, but we kind of respect it. No,
I'm trying to time a meaty. Wake up light Tatsu got me into V, or block string into run, which is super unsafe. But as soon as I see it and try to punish, it's like, no, actually you're getting hit. Or yeah, I can't argue with Ken as a number 1. I think Mika's definitely up there. I think Bison's up there. And if I were to go off of our conversations, you'd say Nikali's up there too, with the V trigger and the hair and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't hate your list. I think it's all right.
Yeah. So maybe we'll make a special list for Nikali, because you keep saying like you're left out of these, like scummy, laggy.
Yeah, I wish I could
I
be included.
Should be here.